Sarah, are there any points of agreement on this legislation between Manchin, Biden, and other Senate Democrats?
Hey everybody, it's Andrew here. Welcome back to the channel. So we've got some updates for seniors. We're going to have some specific details as to what could potentially pass in the next stimulus package. Remember, Joe Manchin said the package was dead, but now he's been saying there are some things he might be willing to pass. So now we're wondering, when will this happen? And if and when it does, will it include things that will help seniors, things like lowering prescription drug prices, a stimulus check for seniors, which Bernie is still pushing for, the expansion of Medicare, more affordable housing, and of course, as we always talk about on this channel, increasing Social Security, SSI, and Ssdi. So let's discuss exactly what Joe Manchin just said and what we expect to happen next. But first, do me a quick favor, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and share this channel with anyone who you think might find this helpful. This is a community for seniors, and my job here is to be a voice for you and be a voice for seniors to make sure President Biden keeps his promise to increase Social Security, increase SSI and Ssdi, and even hopefully approve a stimulus check for seniors in this next stimulus package. And if you guys really want to support my work and be a part of our community, consider subscribing to my second channel, The Andrew Paulo Show. The link to that is going to be in the comments of this video. And on that channel, it's mainly going to be a fun channel where we play bingo every Monday nights. It's going to be a live bingo game so you can play with me and chat with the community. And we're going to give away some stimulus checks as well. So please subscribe to that. And with that said, let's jump right into today's update. So we're going to talk about Joe Manchin, what he just said regarding what he might be willing to approve. But first, let's do a quick update on daily trending news. Well, next Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, and let me know in the comments, guys, do you guys watch the Super Bowl? And if you do you watch it for the game or do you just watch it for the commercials? This year's kind of cool because we have a big city playing a small town. So we have Los Angeles Rams playing the Cincinnati, Ohio Bengals. So it's nice to see a small city in the Super Bowl as well, but it's actually the Los Angeles team and they're playing in Los Angeles. It just happened to work out that way, so it's almost like the Rams are going to have home field advantage. But let me know in the comments, guys, are you guys interested in the Super Bowl? Now, one thing also trending is the fact that a lot of rumors are spreading, which at first seemed kind of crazy, but a lot of rumors are spreading that President Biden is considering putting Kamala Harris into the Supreme Court as that justice role just opened up. Now, this seems a little crazy for a couple of reasons, but some people are kind of saying that there's a little more momentum building with this situation. And the thought process here is that she's so unpopular as vice president, and obviously, President Biden's also doing poorly in the polls as well, that he would move her to the Supreme Court and then get another vice president that might actually be more likable and help Democrats in the polls. But this really doesn't make sense when you think about it, because you're going to take someone who's very unpopular and then nominate her to the Supreme Court. I mean, that's a lifetime position that's going to have huge implications for decades to come. And people are going to get upset about that, right? I mean, people want President Biden to pick a good Supreme Court justice. And putting someone there who's not popular just really doesn't seem like it's going to solve the problem. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. But let's take a quick look at this clip. It's going to be a video from Politico talking about this idea and whether or not it's a good one. So let's take a quick look. Then right after that, we're going to talk about Joe Manchin, what he just said, and what could potentially happen next.
Speculation over whether Kamala Harris could be appointed to the Supreme Court is making the rounds on Capitol Hill. Speculation, I think, is ridiculous, but it's making the rounds, so we're going to discuss it. Now, while the proposal seemed far off to some Democrats, Politico reports that half of the party's strategists and officials interviewed for their recent story either volunteered or entertained a Harris nomination. Wow, how substantial. And given that Harris is even more unpopular than Biden, The Spectator begs the question, are Kamala's days numbered as vice president to bring in a more popular VP?
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki responded to the chatter. Let's watch.
Is there any scenario in which the president would select his vice president Kamala Harris for the Supreme Court?
Again, I'm not going to speak to any considerations, preparations, lists, and as we've stated earlier, and you heard the president say, there's a long history of Supreme Court justices determining when they may retire, if they retire, and announcing that. And we're going to, that remains the case today.
Democratic strategist and director at Waxman, Michael Starr Hopkins, and editor-in-chief at the Post Millennial, Libby Emmons, are here to weigh in. Was that before he had officially resigned?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So she's not. So at that point, she's weighing in because she's refusing to weigh in at that point because he hadn't actually officially announced that he was stepping down. He now has. Michael, I do think that this is not going to happen. It's absurd. But I do think that the mere speculation about it in Politico and these other kind of inside the Beltway outlets is evidence of a phenomenon around Kamala Harris that is dragging her down. Like it is evidence that she's in some political trouble that these stories would even get past an editor.
I don't think. First of all, she's never going to want to do this job. Being on the Supreme Court is tons of work. She wants to. Vice president is not very much work. She wants to be president, so she's not going to take a job that takes you out of the potential presidential lane in order to be a behind-the-scenes, hardworking, this is a thankless job that she's not.
All right, guys, so let's jump right into the update regarding the next stimulus package, the Build Back Better plan, which is supposedly dead according to Joe Manchin. And even if this package ends up getting done, it's basically going to be an entirely different package. It's going to be totally stripped down. There's going to be way less in this package. And it's not going to be called the Build Back Better plan. They'll most likely change the name and pivot to something that really says it's going to control inflation, things like that, because really that's what the American people have shown that they want. Now, Nancy Pelosi and top Democrats have said they're not giving up on getting the big part of these initiatives done. And Joe Manchin has signaled that he's actually open to getting some of these things done. Specifically, he's open to changing the tax code. Remember, in 2017, Trump did his tax cuts, which helped the middle class a little bit, but mainly ended up helping those who were millionaires, billionaires, and corporations. So Joe Manchin's open to rolling back those tax cuts to help bring back in more revenue and lower the national debt. If that happened, that could also potentially create more funding to do things like increase Social Security, SSI, and SSDI. He's also open to doing things for clean energy so the U.S. can transition to more sustainable energy over the next 10, 20 years. And he said he's open to some level of Medicare expansion. So we're not sure if that means including hearing care, which was supposed to be in the Build Back Better Act, or if that just means providing more funding for Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act for specific states that currently don't get that funding, mainly Republican states who are trying to kill Obamacare. So hopefully it includes hearing as well. But what we're wondering here is what's going to be in this package that could help seniors? Are they going to include lowering prescription drug prices? Could they include the stimulus check or debit card that Bernie Sanders is trying to include as well? The Medicare expansion to include hearing care, more affordable housing funding to provide more Section 8 housing for seniors as well. And of course, like we always talk about on this channel, could we get Social Security increases and SSI and SSDI increases as well? Now, to be honest with you, Social Security increases are most likely not going to make it in this package at this point. I mean, the package has been completely stripped down. Joe Manchin is obviously making it a situation where this package is going to be relatively small, and to include Social Security would be a massive feat. Now, politically, it would probably be a good thing. A lot of experts say that if they focus on Social Security benefits, obviously they're going to help seniors and those who are disabled, but they're also going to get on the good side of the biggest voting group in this country at a time when obviously Democrats are doing really, really bad in the polls. So that's something we're monitoring. Potentially the Democrats could pivot and focus on seniors and Social Security, but there's no real evidence that that's actually happening, but it's something that a lot of experts say that Democrats should be doing. And of course, being on this channel, that's something I strongly believe in as well. Democrats should be taking care of seniors and those who are disabled. So that's really the overview of what's happening with Joe Manchin. Now, going forward, we're looking for Biden to strike a deal with Joe Manchin, but talks are really slow right now. Reports are showing that they're really not in discussion of the details, but Joe Manchin is leaving breadcrumbs as to what he would be open to. So with the midterm elections coming up in just about 9 months, we do expect Democrats to try and get some package done before then. So we should have a lot of updates to come. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will keep you posted as things develop. And to end this video, I'm going to leave you with this clip discussing exactly what Joe Manchin just said and kind of going into a little more detail as to what we can expect to happen next. So if you'd like to stick around, let's take a look, see what they had to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.
But he said formal talks have not really restarted yet, and so that remains to be seen. But this is really an uphill climb for Democrats in the Senate because, you mentioned two of those things that Senator Manchin wants to address. The debt limit, of course, the national debt hit $30 trillion for the first time this week. And then we have inflation, which has been an ongoing issue through most of last year and into this year. And we know that the Federal Reserve is expected to start raising interest rates to combat inflation starting in March, but we don't expect inflation to ease until the second half of this year. And supply chain issues, which have been fueling some of that inflation, could continue for some time to come. We do know that there will be a new report on inflation looking at the numbers and how much prices went up last month coming next week. It'll be very interesting to see how Senator Joe Manchin specifically reacts to those new numbers next week. That will provide some insight maybe into what he's willing to talk about in terms of more spending moving ahead in the weeks and months to come.
Sarah, are there any points of agreement on this legislation between Manchin, Biden, and other Senate Democrats?
I think it's hard to really get into the specifics. I mean, that is where the challenges have been. But interestingly enough, the Center for American Progress put out a memo just this week talking about a potential path forward for Build Back Better legislation and the social spending agenda for Democrats. And it really highlighted three components that they say that 50 senators, including Manchin, and a majority in the House of Democrats can get behind and move forward with. And one piece of that they talked about was the climate initiatives and some of the green energy provisions of the Build Back Better Act. Another piece of that Build Back Better Act that they say could have broad support is things that will help with health care costs, as subsidies for health care, as well as allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. And then the third component that they really emphasized in this is the child care and making that affordable. They talked about making it affordable. We know that is a huge burden right now for parents trying to pay for child care, but also universal pre-K is a huge component of this for 3- and 4-year-olds. So
Biden's Build Back Better bill is dead, but Manchin's hinting that some key parts of that bill could still get his support. NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor writing, discussions about Biden's agenda inside and outside Washington are increasingly games of Manchinology, in which policymakers pore over his every pronouncement and look for a new package that succeeds where Build Back Better failed. Sahil joins me now. Sahil, you say Manchin is dropping clues about what he does and does not support, but you write, plenty of Democrats would prefer that Manchin just write his own desired bill rather than turn the House and the Senate into teams of moving detectives trying to solve coded riddles left behind by a mysterious killer. I mean, look, journalists alike would probably like it if Manchin just said what he wants. It would make everybody's life easier. But based on his clues, what have you pieced together? What is he willing to support?
Well, Senator Manchin doesn't like to make the first move in this department for one reason or another, but the reality is there are many policies, major transformative policies that he is willing to support. Starting with the tax side, and this is interesting because the national debt just crossed $30 trillion this week. He told me that's his single biggest priority, fixing the tax code, raising enough revenues to pay down the national debt to some extent. Let's put this up on the screen. He talked about a series of policies on the tax front that he's willing to support, including raising the corporate tax rate to 25%. That would raise hundreds of billions of dollars, a 15% minimum corporate tax rate, so everyone is paying at least something. An increase in the capital gains tax to 28%. He wants to eliminate tax breaks like carried interest, which benefit hedge funds and private equity fund managers. And also he wants to raise individual tax rates on the wealthy. Some of this stuff goes even beyond what the House-passed Build Back Better Act does. And on the spending side, he told me he's willing to support major investments in clean energy, despite the fact that he's from West Virginia, which is a coal state. He told me he is open to enhanced ACA funding, Affordable Care Act subsidies in the mold that were passed under the American Rescue Plan. He's willing to extend those, and he wants to extend insurance coverage to many in the so-called Medicaid coverage gap, states that didn't expand, as long as there are adjustments, his word, to make sure states continue to have an incentive to expand. Now, you put all this together, it would still be a transformative bill. It would not be everything progressives want, but he's laying out what's still on the table for him.
Sahil, progressive House Democrats supported the bipartisan infrastructure bill with the understanding that Senate Dems would pass a version of Build Back Better. If this bill is in fact dead, what do they say now about Manchin?
Well, many of them feel angry and burned by how this all played out. Many of them felt like they had a commitment from the White House, which by extension was a commitment from Senator Manchin in their view that he would be there for the Build Back Better Act, and he wasn't. Many of them are upset about it. Some, like Senator Bernie Sanders, are insisting on a vote on the expanded Build Back Better Act before anything is done to shrink it. But the reality is progressives don't have a lot of high cards to play anymore. Their single biggest piece of leverage was that bipartisan infrastructure law, which Manchin co-wrote, which he was deeply invested in. That passed, and they have less to hold over him now in terms of getting him to the table. Still, as I mentioned, there's a path, but it's going to require some painful sacrifices that a lot of progressives don't want to make.
As we know, Sahil, Democrats need all 50 senators to stick together to pass any budget priorities. So I have to ask, anything from Senator Kyrsten Sinema?
Well, she is particularly a big challenge on the tax side of things. A number of those tax rate increases that I mentioned at the top, including raising the corporate tax rate to 25%, she is not in favor of. She has not come out publicly and said this, but she has conveyed this privately to committee leaders, to the White House, to Democratic Party leaders, and their challenge here is either craft a bill that meets these demands of hers, or call her bluff. Put these tax rate increases in a bill and see if she's willing to go public with them in a way that she hasn't done so, in the way that she hasn't done so far. It's a bit of a tricky puzzle here because some of these policies that Manchin is willing to support run into opposition from Sinema. Some of the policies that Sinema is willing to support, including a very robust climate change investment, run into opposition from Joe Manchin. Appeasing these two and also keeping progressives on board has been an enormous challenge, and it's why Democrats are in the pickle they are in now. Allison.